Hi everybody, my name is Victoria Stadick and I'm an attorney at Mindell Law firm. I've been at Mindell Law since February of 2017 when I joined as a law clerk during my second semester of law school. I love working for Mindell Law. It's like working with family and I know everybody because we are a smaller office. Anybody in the office that knows me knows that I'm a huge animal lover. I've got 3 dogs. My fiance and I actually just rescued our third one 2 weeks ago. She is a 10-week-old German Shepherd, and she is a handful, obviously. German Shepherds require a lot of training and a lot of patience, and right now she's going through her biting phase. So this brings me into my topic, the Michigan dog bite statute. Obviously, there's a lot of responsibility that goes into being a dog owner, and one of them is making sure that your dog does not hurt anybody, bite anybody or injure anybody. So MCL 287.351, which is that Michigan dog bite statute that I'm talking about, states that if a dog bites a person without provocation, and I'll get to what that means in a second, while the person is on public property or lawfully on private property, then the owner of the dog shall be liable for any damages regardless of any former viciousness of the dog or the owner's knowledge of such viciousness. So let's talk about that a second. Provocation is very subjective. It depends on certain factors that surround the situation. For instance, if a person kicks a dog and then they get bit, that's probably adequate provocation. If a person is roughhousing with a dog and they get bit, that's likely adequate provocation. So that's what we're going to be asking you about during our initial interview, is to determine if there was in fact some kind of provocation on the part of the person that was bit by the dog. And then moving on, while the person is on public property or lawfully on private property. Obviously, public property is something like a park or a public sidewalk, while private property is going to be likely somebody's home. But you don't necessarily need to be invited onto the property to lawfully be on the property. And that kind of includes like delivering packages or going door to door and knocking on doors to, sell Girl Scout cookies or something like that. You don't have to specifically be invited on the property to lawfully be there. And then moving on, obviously, this does not require any knowledge of the viciousness of the dog. There doesn't need to be any prior instances of the dog attacking anybody or biting anybody. This is a strict liability statute, which means that we don't have to show that there's negligence of the dog owner per se. So that's why we kind of go into those details when we do our initial interview, to make sure that there was no provocation and that you were lawfully on the premises if it was private property, or you were on public property and you didn't provoke the dog. So obviously the first thing we want to look for is whether you have a serious injury. And a serious injury in this situation would require medical treatment, whether or not you got stitches or not, because sometimes a dog bite is simply just a really deep puncture wound and you can't get a stitch over it. Sometimes, it's a much more serious injury that does require multiple stitches, several rounds of antibiotics, things like that, possibly surgery. And then another thing that we look for is any potential scarring in the future, because scarring increases the value of the case. Obviously, we want to make sure that there was no provocation of any kind, or, we are able to argue that it wasn't adequate provocation. And that's something that we would kind of discuss with you as it came up. And then we need to make sure that there is insurance. If this is a person that has no homeowner's insurance, no rental insurance, we're likely not going to be able to collect from them. So that's the first step that we do. Once we get the initial information, we send a letter to the dog owner. So we do need their name or address or any kind of information you have, so that we can send them a letter and then they can send it to their insurance company, who will set up a claim for us. So that kind of concludes my discussion on the dog bite statute. If anyone has any questions, feel free to comment below and we will answer your questions there, or our contact information is below too. So give us a call if you have any questions, and hopefully I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.